Anybody got any fun stories while we're waiting for people to connect?
Fun stories? No, but I'm just happy with my new toy. So
Jonathan got a new GPU, just in case y'all
yeah,
weren't aware.
yeah, my Ryzen.
Wow.
That's
So
saying something, actually. What I'm aiming for, Jonathan, and when a certain ship comes in, the wife's agreed to let me do it, is a mining rig. It's like 8 GPUs together, and the nice thing is TensorFlow and PyTorch both can treat them as one.
good, nice. Who you gonna go with? AMD or Intel?
Well, I might buy a used one from a friend here locally who wants to upgrade. And I'm like, oh, I don't mind waiting twice as long for the rare times I would need that kind of speed anyway. Okay. And just so y'all know, Gio wanted me to tell you all hi, but she's teaching another I Am Remarkable workshop today. So that's why she can't be here. And then I'm sure you all sometimes wonder, where's Tom's top daughter, Manpreet? And so once a month, she has to show up to a family thing to not be ostracized too much by her family for coming. No, they support her being part of us, but they're like, once a month, skip the integrated thing and come be with us. All right. We're almost at typical mass. So, Kalyan, I just have to point out that I really like your virtual background today. And Greg, your virtual background is quite underwhelming. I'm sorry, brother. It just is. Now, Denis is making the best use of his background. He's advertising and looking scholarly at the same time. I love it. Soon, Gaith and I'll have one behind us soon.
That's right.
Okay, I think some people are, from what I'm seeing, we're near critical mass, but we're just, I think there's some bouncing on and off. Okay, Gaith, when you're ready, let me know.
We are ready.
Great. Okay, imagine there's this AI superstar that's existed since the mid-'80s, but you can't know about him. Why? Well, he would be like one of those talents that some of the CGI movie studios don't want anyone to know about so that you can't steal them from their company. And also because the stuff you're working on is so high tech and so cutting edge, and it's got to remain hush hush while it's in development. But now that guy hits his twilight years and he realizes, oh, I can write books now. I don't have to stay in hiding anymore. And I want us to all help him become famous because the community needs him to be better known. And that's my new good friend, Denis Rothman, who saved me from the plight of trying to slowly trudge through learning transformers on my own through journal articles by using his expertise to write an outstanding book, Transformers for Natural Language Processing. I'm sure y'all have never read a post where I praised Denis before, so sorry for that. But I am a Denis Rothman groupie, confession right there. And you should, if you can, own all of his books. And with that, Denis, please let me know if that was accurate, and give more data on yourself too, please.
Well, it's pretty much it. It's I registered my first word-to-vector patent in 1982, but I'd been working for 4 years already on AI. And then I registered another patent in 1986 on cognitive chatbots. And I immediately, there was one public thing I did for LVMH, a luxury company. But as Tom said, I went immediately in hiding because my first real contract was defense, for which is now Airbus. And you're forbidden to speak about it for the rest of your life. And aerospace, I did aerospace until we sold our company up to like 2016, 2018. You can't speak about anything. But on the other side, I did some things I could speak about, so I put it in my profile. And there's another reason is I didn't want to be public. I liked the fact that no one knew me, no one knew what I was doing, and I had a nice family life. I didn't know what an AI winter was because I was in an AI summer all my life. And then Pact came along, Tushar Gupta, and he says exactly what Tom just said. Why are you hiding like that? Why don't you write a book and share your stuff with other people? So that's where I am today. And I wrote those books Tom was speaking about. So I prepared something like 10 minutes, 5 minutes on one topic and 5 minutes on another. And I was thinking back of what I was going to say, and I wanted to go back to the origins, like you have Batman, the origins. Yeah. So, what is artificial intelligence? So I'm saying, so there's 5 minutes on one topic. Artificial intelligence is a mindset. So the problem I saw in the past 40 years, because I can say here, I don't boast about it often because it makes you look old. But for the past 40 years, I've noticed people are looking in the wrong direction all the time. I mean, artificial intelligence is a word. It doesn't mean anything at all. So I'll give you the sense of where it starts. So let's take a sentence. Let's do a mind experience together. You're saying a dog eats food. Okay, well, that's easy to understand. Then you say a cat eats food. And then I can go on. I can say mice eat food. And by that time, you're getting bored as a human being. You're saying, why is he repeating the same sentence all the time with 3 different words? Although I'm a human and I know that's the same thing. What's going on? So then you use a concept, it's called a hypernym. It's not a synonym, it's a hypernym. You say, Denis, stop repeating all these animals, because I can go on. Elephants eat food, giraffes eat. You say, Denis, please stop. And I can say, animals eat food. Oh, okay, so that's a hypernym. Now I'm in the more abstract level where I'm saying animals eat food. But then I can say, animals eat, animals run, animals talk, or they talk between themselves. And you say, hey, Denis, stop repeating all those verbs. So I can say animals do something. And then you can say food. Oh, well, they do something to something. So it's like subject, verb, object that we know in grammar. So I'm at an abstract level. But then I take it a bit further. I can say this company is manufacturing GPUs. For Jonathan, okay? This company is manufacturing whatever Tom wants, and he wants to buy, I didn't understand the equipment, but he wants to buy something. And I can say, Chris wants to buy something, and you say, stop. I say, what are you saying? I'm saying, well, somebody wants to do something with something. So now I have these animals that are eating, right? And then I doing things, and I have these people doing things, and I'm stuck. Okay, you can describe all of humanity like that with a subject, a verb, and an object. You can find anything you want in the world. And then you're sitting there, and I'm sitting there in the 1980s, and I'm saying, I'm not going to write 15 programs. I'm not going to write a program for a guy that's a food producer, a program for a guy that's manufacturing. And it's not because I'm intelligent, it's because I don't have the team to do the maintenance and support. So if I invent something for each company, I don't have the resources to maintain it. So then you go to another level and you say, why don't I replace animals and people and whatever by A, okay, a letter, and then doing something by B, and then doing something for something by C. So now you have A, B, C. It can be man eating food, animals eating food, man buying machines, but you get a pattern. Okay, so now you have this pattern and you're thinking, well, how am I going to put that in a computer? A, B, C. I mean, I'm working with computers. They do 0, 1s and all that stuff. Why don't I convert this into a number? Why don't I say human is 1 to 5, animals is 5 to 10, and give numbers. And with these numbers, then I left all these words, the words are gone now. I don't need the words anymore. I know that with ABC that I converted into 3 numbers, let's call them 1, 2, 3. I don't need to look back anymore. I have all of humanity in three numbers. Something does something. Okay, you can sum up anything you're thinking of right now. I'm watching a video conference. I'm going to, you can try anything you want. It's going to fit into these 1, 2, 3. Now I'm getting to the second part of my 10 minutes. So it's a mindset, which means that every time you look at something around you, you don't start artificial intelligence with a laptop. You start artificial intelligence sitting on a beach or in a garden, and you're looking around and say, how could I represent this with just 3 letters or 3 numbers? Everything I'm looking at. So your mindset is in the wrong direction. Don't look into books and to think, look around you and say, how does my mind figure all that out? So now I get to the second part where I say, well, now I have the idea that I have to go from words to vectors. I have to go from words to numbers, because numbers is what I'm going to use to do some calculations. Then I'll translate it back into words so that the users can understand what's going on. So your first concept, you remember after these 5 minutes, is just try to find patterns and put them into letters or numbers, okay? Just in your mind. You don't even need to read books like that. You've done it, you do it all your life. Now, the second thing is, how am I going to represent this? And the best way, and the way it's represented 99% of the time in math and artificial, is with a grid. Exactly like you're looking at your video at the Zoom here, and all these people are in grid view. We're all in grid view. We're all in grids. Everyone is in a certain place, right? Let's take this example. Everyone is in a certain place, and everyone is doing something. You have 1, 2, 3. Like some people are bored. I can see it on your faces. You're half asleep. Or some people are interested. Some people are smiling, like Greg. Okay. And then some people, okay, because in fact, human beings can't concentrate more than 2 or 3 minutes. You probably know that yourself. It's impossible. None of us can concentrate for more than 2 minutes. Then we drift off to, what am I going to do after? How long is this guy going to speak? Is he going to talk to me about his grandchildren? I mean, I'm dead bored already. When is it going to stop, please? Okay, so, that's all that stuff is going in our mind, and we have this grid view. Okay, now the second part is to put these numbers into grids. And what artificial intelligence will do is I'll put like the women, maybe I might put the women in some squares, the men in other squares, young in some other squares, old. Now let's go into your kitchen. Everyone has a kitchen, okay? You don't put your frozen food on the table for 1 week, right? Because it'll stink, right? It'll be rotten. You put it in a refrigerator. What else do you put in a refrigerator? You put milk in your refrigerator. You put meat in your refrigerator. You don't put cookies. You don't put cookies in a refrigerator. They won't taste good anymore. After 2 days, you put them in a cupboard. You don't put your dishes in a refrigerator unless you have Alzheimer or you're going wrong, or you're taking too much drugs and you put your dishes in the refrigerator. Okay, so you put your dishes in another cupboard. So what you're in a grid in your kitchen, and you're classifying things, you're putting things there. And I'm reaching the end of my little presentation. The first step was I got to find patterns and convert them into some kind of numbers. Then I have to put them into grids like I do in my kitchen, because I'm not going to mix dogs with cats and people and, And then all artificial intelligence does, and all of the math you can imagine and all the sophisticated books, is just trying to find a way to put something in the right place. Because artificial intelligence is incredibly dumb. I mean, if you put a cookie, a 3-year-old child will go to the right cupboard, but not an artificial intelligence program. You have to teach it to go to the cupboard. So all we do in artificial intelligence is try to fit that cookie to the cupboard, put the fish in the refrigerator, put the dishes in the right place. And the only thing all that math is for is just to relate the simple thing to that other. It's just distances. It's optimal transport. The whole thing behind it is optimal transport in a grid. And those were my 10 minutes. I started 10 minutes ago.
I've got to confess to everyone, one of my reasons for being top Denis Rothman groupie is because he does just what he did. He starts with philosophy. And Denis, I learned the hard way in grad school. Oh, when I'm stuck at a wall, when there's a hurdle I can't jump over, the absolute worst place on the planet to be is staring at my computer screens. I got in the good habit of getting up with a clipboard in hand and walking across campus. And I kid you not, guys, 400 yards. And I was doing what Denis was saying. I was getting out of the code, out of the math, and thinking concepts and remembering. I didn't even know what I was doing at the time. I began to think in patterns, just like he's encouraging us to do to become good AI specialists. The other good thing I did, which Denis is helping us now that he's out of hiding, is this, just what we do here. Just what Jonathan's starting to be a superstar at when he leads the Kaggle group. It's this spirit of more together that we have here. In my grad school office, I still am close to my buddies that I was in that office with. And I'd say, hey, Mark's a professor now in Florida by now, or at this time. And I say, hey, Mark, can I do a rollover? And sure, Tom. And so the rollover was I'd come over and explain to him my current hurdle, my current problem. Just by having to clarify to him what I was dealing with got me out of my ruts. And normally about halfway through, I'd say, thanks for listening, Mark. Anytime, Tom. And they'd do the same with me, and we would describe our problems to each other. And because we had to describe it conceptually, we weren't going to stare at each other's code or math equations. We were talking through concepts, and that got us over the hump. He's talking about being in hiding. And did anyone happen to notice a good-looking profile picture of someone in the grid? Robert Jane is listening in, guys. All right, Greg, I don't know who went first, but Greg, your question.
Yeah, so I have two parts to my question, Denis. So thank you for this. It's very illuminating. At the high abstract, you talked about the first part of my question. You talked about converting to 1, 2, 3. The way I understand it is 1 contains animals, people, and things like that. So inside of 1, you're creating some sort of classification. Is that correct? So you're creating distances between cats and dogs versus, and then dogs versus people and things like that. Is that in zebra? Is that how I understand it?
Yeah, well, you're on the right track. The first step is to understand that numbers are a language. Like people take you learn the alphabet. No one would dream of thinking that the alphabet will make a novel. Oh, I'm looking at the alphabet and I don't feel anything. Well, okay. Well, then the next step in the human ladder in language is to look into a dictionary. A dictionary is not very exciting. You're not going to find science fiction stories or anything. The problem is the way math is told. One can mean anything you want. You have to use your imagination. Numbers are a language. So if you just stop at looking 2 times 3, derivative and integral, you're not going to go very far. What you said is perfect. You can say, Greg Kokila is going to invent a patent, and 1 will contain all living beings between 0.001 and 1. And I'm going to classify all of living matter in 1. And on top of 1, you know what I want to do? I want to put God, and I want to put the sun, and I want to put all these. It's your imagination. It's a language. You're expressing, you just expressed yourself using your language. So it's perfect. So the first step is to use numbers like you're using language to imagine fantastic things. The emotions, you can say love is number 7. You can say, and then love is just an arbitrary sound. It's just L-O-V, and it's not the same in French. It's amour. In other languages, in German, it's Lieben. these are arbitrary. Why wouldn't I say 7 is love? So when we convert words to vectors, well, people say, oh, they don't have any meaning. Well, yes, they do. All you have to do is they have to speak to you. You have to learn to imagine words.
Thank you for this. So my quick other question is, are you saying that we will never be in a place where we put AI in a brand new kitchen it's never seen before and knowing how to classify things inside of that kitchen without ever being taught in the first place to do so?
I'm saying that AI is dumb. It's like a newborn child. Why don't you just take a newborn child? You take your baby, you just got out of the hospital, the clinic, just born. You put him in the kitchen. You give him a pocket calculator, and you say, and okay, put all that stuff in the right place. So of course, if the program has been trained for years, of course it will do something. But if you just give it something blank, it'll do nothing. It's just it's a mirror. It's a mirror. It's what you put into it. It's your imagination, your life. It's a language.
Thank you.
I actually like that closing point a lot. It's a language. And sometimes we have to modify the language, right, Denis? I mean, when we're coming up with these solutions. Gaith.
Yes, in fact, it's about this modification, Tom. Denis, I like the pattern, the classification, and how this mindset has to be. Maybe I will add one thing. It's only understanding the recipe or understanding the relationship between these classifications and these patterns. Because at the end, when you make a decision, it's not only about classifying and understanding the pattern. You have to know why. For example, in the kitchen, we need to cook something. So we need the fish and we need the fire and we need the spices, and we have to understand the relationship between them. Maybe this is the only thing I would like, if you allow me, to add to your presentation. This is my suggestion.
Excellent addition. But remember, if you look at you take a child that's, I would say, 4 years old, 4 or 5 years old, and if you're not annoying the child, you let the child play in its room. Look at what it's doing. It's putting a lot of things together. It's doing what you're saying, creating the relations. So yeah, you're right. It's something natural. We're just expressing all this in a new language, math and artificial intelligence. There's nothing new there.
Okay, excellent. And great brothers think alike. Awesome. Magdi, we're very eager to hear you.
Okay, I have a question. I'm really interested to know your opinion about, and I'm taking your analogy forward. So when we take a human being like a child, a 3 years old child, and an AI, what do you think, which one is easier to teach? I mean, can we compare at all? Because I feel that AI has much more limitations than a child, because you can teach a lot of things. You can teach nuances for a human being, but you cannot do that. You cannot deliver these little tiny things what only human being understands through a language. I mean, humor, for example, sense of humor. I don't think that you will be able to build in an AI process somehow, using a language or classification.
You hit one of the major concepts that always make me smile, is anthropomorphization. Like, when we're children, we look at puppet shows, and the puppeteer is like that, and we really think these puppets are alive. We project all our emotions, and if a puppet hits another puppet, we say, no, don't hit the puppet. And the puppeteer will say, children, do you want me to hit him? No, don't hit him again. Or maybe, do you want him? So we're just projecting. Everything you just said is media and imagine projections. So what you have to think of artificial intelligence as a pocket calculator. Okay. Do you think your pocket calculator is going to wake up one morning and talk to you and say, how did you sleep? And, I feel a lot about you, and you don't look good today. Artificial intelligence is just a very big pocket calculator. So you can take everything you said out of there, because we're just projecting. Of course, we can mimic. We can say, we can put words in it. Oh, how are you today? And anything you want, but it's still mimicking. It's a puppet. So think as artificial intelligence as a pocket calculator puppet. But I'm cynical because I don't think men are much better. I don't think humans are. I think we're monkeys with laptops or monkeys with machine guns. So I don't have enormous consideration for humans either, because mostly men commit like 90% of the murders on the planet. You know that by now, and only 10% women, and mostly in self-defense. So we can safely say that men are murderers. So we're more like monkeys with machine guns or laptops. And the artificial intelligence is a puppet with a pocket calculator.
Yeah, but it's like, for me, then it's a puppet on strings, and we are just directing them. I mean, we are the ones who are managing these strings, how this puppet will work. And then this drives to me the next question, that what is our responsibility then? I mean, I feel then you really have to take care what you teach to or through artificial intelligence as well.
Yeah, that's another major problem. Let me show you one of the most dangerous. I'm going to show you right now something I'm hiding under my desk here, which is the most dangerous weapon that ever existed in humanity and probably killed, I would say, more than anything else. You can strangle someone. You can beat them to death. You can slap them on the face. You can say you can do bad things with your fingers that will hurt the person inside. But mostly when we didn't have weapons, we would just beat people to death. And then after we found stones, so we could beat the people with stones, then we found knives. That's cool. And you just tear them apart. Then we invented bows and arrows and machine guns. And now we have intercontinental ballistic missiles. What I'm saying here is a hand. If I don't mind, I can't cut off my hand. I mean, it's just the nature of humanity. In us, we have instincts, and this hand can also save you. It can pump on your chest to get your breath back. It can be the surgeon with the knife. It can help people and can give love, like in concerts when people do like that. We're just humans. Why would machines be better than us? You just said it. It's a puppet. It's a pocket calculator with a puppeteer and strings. Won't be better than us.
This puppet analogy is very good. If any of you have heard of Marilyn Vos Savant, the highest recorded IQ in history, and she's actually got a personality and is quite adept at teaching and getting complex concepts across to others. She's Dr. Jarvis's wife, by the way, the inventor of the artificial heart. But she was asked the famous question once. She's very good at answering these famous questions, by the way, and stumping expert mathematicians and statisticians. She's just a very gracious woman, is what I'm trying to say. But she was once asked, and it's germane to this conversation, how can you tell if something is good or evil? And without hesitation, she said, give it power. And the comments over here are correct. Denis is spot on. Now, the puppeteer, the materials the puppet's made of, the strings, it's all digital, and the programmer. And so I tell people regularly, I don't fear AI. I fear the people that create AIs. Are they good or are they evil? Very well put, Denis. Thank you. Magdi, did you have a follow-up?
No, that was
okay.
it. Thank you.
Yeah.
There's
for management, lower your hand. And Greg, hold your question. Is it related to this?
No, I was going to say there's a question here from Ravi Jain. I was going to help him out with.
Yeah, no, I'm going to moderate his, but both Kim and Donabelle asked some good questions in the chat, and I would actually prefer to let them ask them here live. Donabelle, would you mind coming off mute and restating your earlier question for us?
I actually didn't have a question. I just said I love what Denis said, that AI is incredibly dumb. And for a 3-year-old, they would know where to go to look for a cookie. So I think that resonated with me. I think that was great. So I had no questions.
No, okay, good. I misunderstood, and thanks for clarifying that. It was still good to hear. And then Kimberly, you had a statement or a question in the chat. Will you share that?
So my statement was simply talking about how AI from first I was trying to summarize what Denis was saying and saying that, you know, would it be fair to say that AI is basically the proper classification of language and then the mathematical execution of what we want to do with it. That was the first part. And then the second part was about ethical AI and how seeing as humans have this capacity for good and evil, seeing as humans have this capacity for biases and for making mistakes, what are your views on how you see ethical AI being put into practice, and what is the best way to do that without constraining imagination and possibilities in a way that still makes sure that the code is not biased, if it's possible to answer that?
Well, there's one, the only simple way I see is, I'll put it another way. Imagine, go back to real life. Suppose you live in a big city and the city decides that there's no more law for the next year. No police, no taxes, you can do what you want. You want to go rob your neighbor, kill your neighbor. Just imagine what it would be like for 1 year in that city, okay? It would be hell on earth, because I'm going back to what we're saying, we're animals, okay? And if you let these animals, do what they want, well, these animals are not good people, okay? That's what we are. So there's something called the law. And there's something in Europe we call, RGPD, which is the law. And there's a striking difference between the United States and, for example, Europe. Like in chapter 5 of my book on explainable AI, I had a lot of fun because I looked at an American prediction of income. Okay, it was a database, and Jonathan, I think I got it on Kaggle. And Kaggle, so you look at the American database, okay? And I was screaming. I mean, I was looking at this database, and I've been living in Europe for years, so I can't even believe what I was saying. I was saying, okay, a person's going to earn more or less than $50,000. So you had sex already, the gender. Is it a woman or a man? I say, wow, that's like 19th century. Then I get to the next one, race. I said, wow, race? I thought race was eliminated in 2000 when we discovered that everyone has the same genes. What is race about? So look at race. What do I find in race? Jamaican? Wow, Jamaican is a new race. What is a Jamaican race? I found Mexican. Wow, what's a Mexican race? I mean, they invented a number of races. I mean, the guys must have been smoking marijuana because, it's legal in Colorado. And so I'd say, Mexican is a race. Well, that's something. And then other, I don't know. Then you had all kinds of colors, but the person, then I was thinking, because in my family, we have all kinds of colors. And I was saying, what if a person is born from a white parent and a black mother? Is he white or is he black? I mean, genetically, he can, it's what he wants. I mean, the color can't define your race. I mean, that doesn't exist. It's like I'm saying brown is, so I have dark hair, it's a race, blonde is skin is just some kind of chromosome in there. So if a person's born for both, is he white or is he black? Okay, so in fact, a lot of people in the United States don't even know that, but a lot of black people were white after a few generations and could choose. Thomas Jefferson had a slave lover, and the children chose whether they wanted to be black or white. So what I did, I said, this is crazy, because I live in Europe and that's forbidden. If I put this on a website in France, I go directly to court and I can be sentenced to a prison sentence. It's a criminal law. It goes into criminal law in France. You're forbidden to do that. So I say, what does it mean anyway? So I was looking at the stuff and I said, what if I'm in my ethical chapter? What are the two things that matter? And this is a good way to start, is age, because it's very rare for a person that's 1 year old or 2 years old to earn more than $50,000 a year. That's rare. 10 years old, well, that's rare too, or maybe 15 in sports. But on average, someone's going to be earning that kind of money around 25, 30. And who earns that money on average is someone with a lot of education. You can go to sports or to sing, but these are 1 in a million. So on average, if you get a lot of education, well, you're going to earn more than a person that doesn't have a lot of education. And if you're around between 25 and 50, 60 before they throw you out of society, because once you're older, then you're not worth much. So you're just worth what your friends or Tom thinks you're worth. So it comes a nice guy, so he's gonna say, Dennis is great, but you're not worth anything, in fact. So your value is going down in society. Old people, I mean, that is the worst you want to be. So I took this and I said, I'm going to compare the results of Kaggle, and I'm just going to take two columns, age and level of education. It was very easy. I got better results than they did. I took all that noise out, gender and all that stuff, color. I mean, it doesn't mean a single thing. But if you're a certain age and you have a certain education, you're pretty sure to get a good job. And then in the chapter after, was even worse. It's this, you might know about it. It's this Compass database. I think it's in Kaggle too. This was even more terrifying because it had exactly this kind of data with ethnical data in it again. And I think, are these guys insane? Or, I mean, on what planet do they live? I reached the same result with age and education. How many people with a PhD go out with a gun into a shop and in a food shop and saying, give me your cashier? Have you seen many people on Wall Street? They just go out, at 5 o'clock and they go to McDonald's and say, hey, give me your cash. Okay, so I just found that age and income, I didn't need these databases. I just need the age of the person and the education. So you need laws like RGPD. This is by law what I'm saying. This is legal, and a legal obligation in Europe and France and Germany to never use anything else except for data that can be applied to every single person. So I say the law is a great thing, and maybe there should the law. So you just say, if you're doing something, you're forbidden to use anything, any kind of data that is not neutral. It can't be applied to everybody. That's pretty simple.
Okay. This is deep and it's good. I'm going to shift gears a little bit and then I'm going to go to Guy. So Guy, Robert had his hand up for a bit, virtually speaking. Robert wanted to ask, let me go back up to it because it scrolled a bit. Tech companies are focusing on AI a lot. What's really next for AI in the coming years, say 2 years or more? Can one still think to build a career in AI? And Denis, I've tried to watch all your videos. I'm a little behind, but you have spoken to this. What for our we're a family here, Denis, and for us, with regard to Robert's question, how would you counsel us, in your opinion, to focus on the future as we continue to develop ourselves?
Okay, so that's a problem I'm solving right now for a startup that came to me and said, we're going to do artificial intelligence. Okay, my answer is, what for? So yeah, you looked at my videos. So you don't need artificial intelligence to go by your... Now, let's say we're in family and I just drop all the, the theoretical talk. You're facing a customer. Let's say let's go in a real situation that I lived hundreds of times. Okay. I've lived off artificial intelligence all my life, self-employed. So I spent my time doing this. So let me give you a real situation. Okay. You go into a corporation on day one. Okay. On day one, I park my car, I get in reception, and generally in my hiding career, but known by these people, I'm talking to CEOs or to number 2, 3, 4, 5, rarely under. So I know I'm talking to some people, that they don't want to waste your time. You got 1 or 2 minutes or 5 minutes, and they'll just kick you out of the office if you don't have anything to say. So I just come in with two very simple things. I'm a simple person. I come in with empathy and truth. I don't have a sales, anybody that knows me knows that I have no social varnish. I can be talking to you the same way I'm going to talk to a minister. I've worked for French ministers. I talk exactly like I'm talking. So I come in with empathy and with truth. What is empathy? I'm trying to figure out what he needs. I don't care if I sell or not. The first thing I think in the parking lot, let's imagine I don't sell anything at all here, and I'm just trying to come in and help this person, okay? So I'm coming in, and he says, what do you have to sell? And I say, what do you need? I have nothing to sell. If you don't need anything, let's just go have a nice lunch, because I'm not going to sell stuff you don't need because you just trust me, and then we get in a fight in 1 month. I have a nice family. I don't want to get in trouble. So what do you need? What do you need? And what's your main problem? Why did you have me come here? And then then the person will say, like in supply chain, I have a problem with a warehouse. Well, you have a problem with the warehouse. So what's the problem? I say, why didn't you solve it with organization? Why do you need software in the first place? Why would you want software? Why don't you just hire someone, an additional person, and then you solve your problem? He said, yeah, but we tried that, but there's a lot of data. We get like 100,000 records per day, from all sorts. Then so why don't you try SQL? You know what SQL? Why don't you try just simple, go get me your IT person. So he gets his IT person. I say, why didn't you solve this with an SQL script? He said, I tried, but there's a lot of combinations. Okay, then why don't you try it just with some basic math? So I'll be fighting not to sell AI, in fact, until the person says, the person's going to become the salesperson. He says, I need AI because we've tried all this and I can't find the solution. I can't find the ways to put all that stuff in the kitchen. We're really having problems. So I say, okay. Now experience comes in because often I know the solution. Okay. I know exactly what to do. I don't need a laptop or anything. That's the only thing I know in life is the solution the person needs in a minute. Okay. I don't need I know exactly if it's going to be possible or not. So I say, it's not going to be possible. He says, why? Why don't you see my competitor? And I give him the name of my competitor. And then come back when you failed and you're you kicked them out of the company and you listen to me. So then what if the person really believes in it, then I go to a prototype. I don't sell the project. I said, why don't we just sit down together like we're doing today in family? I want to take my time for 1 month and we're going to talk together, work together and see what I do. And I want to understand what you do. And after a month or so, if we feel good on this, then let's do a little project. And AI can help because sometimes I'm thinking of one project I did I had 60 million customer orders per day coming in on 5 continents. Well, you're not going to do that with SQL. You're not going to be able to find the best configurations. So first, what I always say is, if I were you, I wouldn't believe what I'm saying. That's what I tell managers. If I were sitting in your shoes and the guy comes up and says, I can schedule 60 million orders on 5 continents better than you, I wouldn't believe him. So I said, don't believe me. Let's do the prototype together. If it works, fine. If it doesn't, just, you don't have to pay me or give me a small budget. So basically, you're back to the beginning of my answer is empathy and truth. So, and keep money out of the way. I mean, really, money is danger. Money is poison. In any relationship, money is poison. Money will come naturally, but it's not the way you talk to people.
That is so, Denis, you even gave the summary of what you said better than I was going to give it. I frequently tell everyone, hey, just care. But as you pointed out, you led your caring at the beginning of this answer with asking questions. And it's a spirit of, well, maybe you don't need AI. Maybe you need something else. Let me help you figure that out. I loved it. Loved it. Okay, son, you go. Let's hear from you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi.
Dennis, hi. I just wanted to ask a question. Hey, Kim. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Great, thank you. Artificial general intelligence.
I'm not that old yet. I'm not that old yet.
Okay, so artificial general intelligence is deemed impossible by many. At least I've heard a lot of people say that we might not get to that point where we have it. So, but I have been asking questions, and is it possible that it's the math or the statistics that the level of math or statistics that we are exposed to presently that is holding back the move to artificial general intelligence, since most deep learning algorithms are based on either logistic regression or any of all these statistical or mathematical knowledge. So that's what I've been thinking. What do you think, sir?
I think you just hit some of my intimate thoughts, and it's going to be difficult. But since we're in family, I'm going to have to tell you the truth. You're right. Artificial intelligence is completely on the wrong track with only using math and statistics, because absolutely no human, there's not a single human being. So you're right. Math is what's holding it back. And it's only a reason, it's like why men are predominant in computer science. It's just, it's some kind of reason where you scared women out of the field as developers. And then now you're scaring philosophers, literary people, you scare them out of that. So now you just have us dumb mathematicians writing these dumb programs that just do dumb things. And of course, it's holding us back. I mean, it's incredibly frustrating to look at the stupidity of what we're doing with artificial intelligence. I mean, let me take your question, but it's intimate. I'll never write a post like this on LinkedIn, so this is totally unofficial. And if you say I said that, I'll say I was never in this meeting. In fact, you can see I didn't even put my name on private here. So of course you hit the target right in the center. So suppose like I came like this stupid idea we're going to live on Mars. Okay, so you don't have to go to Mars because California is going to be Mars in a few years. Once they burn all the forests down, they'll be able to create a Mars environment there, or So suppose I come from another galaxy, okay? And I meet Ogochukwu, who asked me the question, and I say, are you the only person on Earth that thinks like that? Because there might be a problem on this planet. I might have to go back now because what are you saying? I mean, of course, what are you doing with artificial intelligence? YouTube? Facebook? Twitter? Wow. Wow, that's great. That's where artificial intelligence is used, on Facebook, Instagram. You're talking to a guy from another galaxy. He says, why don't you people talk to yourself directly? Why do you talk to yourself with digital interfaces? Are you crazy or something? Do you have some kind of mental disease? Why don't you meet people in person? Why do you have to talk to someone? Do you talk to your wife? You look like you spend 10 hours a day on YouTube, but you don't talk to your wife that's right 2 meters from you. So I think there's some kind of mental, now I'm really telling you what I think. I think man has a mental disease or something. I think we're psychotic. I think we're pretty psychotic because we get angry. You get on Twitter, you get angry like cavemen. I'm going to kill you. I'm Republican. You're Democrat. The Democrats, the left, the right, the left. You look at the world power, which is the United States, and then you go look at Twitter. You come from another galaxy. He's the left wing. He's the right wing. He's the left wing. He's the right wing. He hates black. He loves blacks. These people are crazy. I mean, it's so I would say we're using artificial intelligence for billions of dollars to do, I don't know, as someone living in 1920 would come out today and say, is that what you did 100 years after? We just finished World War I and the Spanish flu. I come back 100 years later, and what am I? So, of course, you're right, Ogochukwu. The stupidity of machism in artificial intelligence plus math, which has scared a lot of people out. We scared all the intelligence out of artificial intelligence. What we need is philosophers. We need psychologists. We need nice people. We need people that don't know anything about artificial intelligence and math. We need people. And there are no people. There are only a bunch of guys with potato chips and pizzas and Coca-Cola that studied math at school. They don't even know calculus, but are developing programs. And they look so smart, and then they become billionaires, and then they want to go live on Mars. I don't want to go live on Mars. I live in France, in the country between Paris, and I drink champagne. I'm going to drink champagne. I don't want to go on Mars. These guys are insane. So not only are you right, but you should be leading this group. I won't do it. I won't do it because it's not politically correct to go on social media and say, you know what? This whole system is dumb. I can't write that. I'm not going to, I can take all those books out. I won't sell another copy anymore. So don't look at these books.
So Denis, what I think you and I can do together, you really already embrace the leader of this group. I don't know if you've noticed the leader of this group. The leader of this group is more together. So
well, for the moment, it's Ogu Chukwu because he's the only one that saw the enormous flaw in this whole conversation. He'd say, what do you guys mean? Life stops with math?
No, exactly. But I just want to share, and I guess, by the way, Denis, this is recorded, so some of what you're saying is going to get out a little bit. But I'm gonna temper it. I'll temper it a little bit. I got to this point, Hugo and Denis, where I was frustrated immensely. I was so frustrated with the amount of stupidity I was seeing everywhere, but not just, I mean, here too. You know, that adage of you're pointing your finger, but there's three pointing back at you. I looked at my past and I thought,
I pointed to my books.
Yeah. I think, how stupid of me. How stupid of me. And I came up with a more palatable way to explain all this. If you think of all that can be known and all that you can understand and how much power you have to deal with it, it's frighteningly scary. We're all essentially blind and ignorant and powerless, relatively speaking, relative to all that could be seen and known and accomplished. But the better way to climb out of that state is to have the spirit we have here, more together. In other words, there's always going to be problems when people want more than someone else. But when a group of people stick together and they say they want more together, it gets around those issues. And I agree. And I think you've been faithfully pointing us to this whole session. If we only think of math and coding, we're not going to get very far. But when we stop and think, oh, let's remember, math's just the way we quantify what we see. Concepts are abstractions of the truths we realize as we walk this world. So if we have a spirit of using them to help one another, it's going to flourish. If we have a spirit of using it to get more than our neighbor, it's probably going to hurt us. But I appreciate those thoughts, Denis, and I don't think you're too dangerous for sharing them, or you go too dangerous for asking them. These are the things, to have more together, we have to hit these hard questions. Brother Greg, oh wait, hang on. Gary Gregoire Coquillo, do you have a question?
Oui, j'ai une question. Yes, I do. Yeah, so my question is about...
Wait a minute, wait 1 second, Greg. You have to ask your question in French. And then...
Ah oui, je peux le faire.
And then Denis will translate the question. Okay?
Sure, no problem. I can even
Alors,
answer.
ma question, c'est concernant le quantum computing. Est-ce qu'il y a une corrélation avec le progrès avec l'artificial intelligence, avec la naissance du quantum computing? Est-ce que ça va remplacer le computer normal? Et qu'est-ce que
Canadien,
tu vois
toi?
là dans ce domaine?
Canadien, toi?
Non, je suis haïtien.
Haïtien?
Ouais.
Okay, so Greg is asking the impact that quantum computing will have on artificial intelligence. Will it transform artificial intelligence? And where will we go with artificial intelligence? Is that okay, Greg?
C'est ça, c'est correct.
C'est correct? Okay. Now, the problem, now, boy, you guys hit some, Hugo got me there with some intimate stuff, and now Greg gets me with even more stuff. Quantum mechanics is probably the most powerful thing right now to help a mind evolve. The only problem I have here is if you take the Tom, what you call philosophy is what I call what math expresses to me. It's like numbers are concepts for me. So if you go to quantum mechanics and you go to a block sphere is like a qubit. It's something round. It's with trigonometry. And it's something beautiful for me because, as you can see now, I don't see numbers in math. I see philosophy in math. I see concepts. I can even see cosmic things in math. It's just a language to me. It's like I can read a book or read math, but I'm not thinking of the numbers. It's like poetry to me. So if you look at a block sphere and you see it, what's fantastic in here, forget about artificial intelligence for a minute, but look at the potential, conceptual. First of all, it's not 0 and 1. Wow, it's fantastic. You can have an infinite amounts of proportions between 0 and 1, which is exactly the way I think. When I get a lot of people mad in discussions, even in France, where there's a right and left politics. When you're having dinner, someone's on the right, someone's on the left. And they say, what about you, Denis? I say, I don't know. I like what you say. Who? All of you. I know. I find it all interesting. He said, yeah, but how can you be both left and right? Because I like you, I like you. So what you're saying there makes sense for you. And what he's saying is the opposite, makes sense for him. I don't see any problem with that. And what do you think? Well, I don't think anything. Let's have another glass of champagne. So I think like a qubit. I like quantum mechanics because our life is uncertainty. Will we be alive tomorrow morning? Will we be loved? I don't know anything. And what I like about it is uncertainty that's in there. It's huge. And another thing that I like about it is I can step away from time. Time loses and space lose their importance in quantum mechanics because it's so small and tiny. The electrons, sometimes they just disappear and then they just reappear. I like it. It's like magical. And I don't like time very much because your time's not my time. Someone that has terminal cancer time is going flying. Someone that's 10 years old and bored in a classroom, time is very long. You don't need Einstein to know that time is relative when you're in a boring classroom with a boring teacher or in a boring meeting. Time is very long compared to the guy that's talking in the meeting there. It's boring you to death. So quantum mechanics gets you away from time and it gets you away from space because it's so tiny. It's the world under us. So I would say if you go into quantum mechanics, it's fascinating, but think of all the way it can change your way of thinking and make an everyday conversation better. And if someone tries to say left, right, or I believe this, say, why don't we put it all together? Because all that's true. How can it all be true? Because if you sum it all up, well, that's the sum of what humans think. They think on the right, on the left, in the center. They believe in God. They don't believe in God. You put it all together and you have this nice portrait of. Now, if you put it into computing, I'm going back to Hugo. Hugo, we're going to need people like you because if Hugo is not in the quantum mechanics project, they're going to go back to math again. So it's going to be some more dumb programs, but we'll be dumber faster. They'll produce dumber programs faster. You get fast speed, dumb answers. But if you have people like Hugo saying, ho, 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 can we express something more than math? Can we put concepts, empathy? What can we do to enrich the power of what it's trying to tell us? So if we put Hugo in there and he says, no, I'm not, if you only give me math, I'm not using it. But if you can add other things and make it more complex, I'll use it. So it's an incredible potential if Hugo's around or Hugo around. Otherwise, it's going to be more math.
A quick injection. And I mean this as a polite challenge to the way we're wording this right now. And it's this. I think math will go the way of SQL. Okay, that's kind of comical if you know what I'm getting at. For many years, people thought SQL would be replaced. And now there's these long-term SQL proponents who are saying it's not going anywhere. It's still the main database management method. Dennis, what I think you mean to say, and correct me if you feel differently, math should, I think too often we're intimidated by math. We think we need to serve it, we need to obey it. It's quite the opposite. We need to remember it's our servant. We created it. We made it a philosophical way to deal with quantifying things. It needs to serve our brilliant concepts. Dennis, in that latest presentation when I taught on transformers or how to learn them quicker, I kept trying to emphasize what's pushing us forward in AI, in machine learning, is human ingenuity, not math. I mean, yeah, it's how they're using the math, but mathematicians weren't thinking of using math the way we are now. I think all I'm trying to say is it's kind of like love of money. Like is money your master? When Jesus said you can't have two masters, it's a spirit of, hey, math's not the master. Human needs are. Now let's use math to meet the needs. Is that more of what you're getting at?
I just found an example because while I'm sitting here, I can hear my son playing the piano above. And I think I have the way I'm not an ordinary person. I might be, a psychiatrist, might not be normal, but this is how my brain functions. When I usually play the piano a lot around 11 p.m. or midnight. Okay, it's bedtime, and generally my wife goes to bed, and she likes when I play these nice little things on the piano, a lot of jazz, but in a very dreamy way. And since it's family, I'll tell you how this works, and I'll translate it to math. I usually have this stool, and I'm laying against the wall. And since I've had my piano since age 4, I don't have to look at it. So I just lay back and I close my eyes, and it just plays by itself, because I've been doing this for, I won't tell you the number of years because you'll just all turn the Zoom off. So I'm playing the piano, and all I see is movies. I see images, I see landscapes. I don't see anything in the room. I'm in another place. It's like Netflix times 1,000. And I've never taken drugs, and I drink very little alcohol. I'm just genetically abnormal. So I just sit there and I play. And the thing is, math does the same thing. When I was in high school, it was impossible for me to focus like everyone, because as soon as I saw an equation, I saw a huge amount of things. I saw everything I was talking about earlier. I see kitchens, trees, I see all kinds of things. And even when I'm walking in the street, if I'm looking at a cathedral, well, I'm going to see all these forms, and it's going to remind me of something I saw in Manhattan or something I saw in Delhi. My mind just inspires me. It just gives me, I use math is just another way. It's imagination. It's 10 times more powerful than marijuana if you want to dream. It can make you dream and dream and dream. It's just because it's taught so stupidly in school. They teach you in school, take letters to write words and words to write sentences. Then you can write poetry, but you never get to the poetry level in math in school because they keep teaching you math like idiots. Okay, they don't make people dream. I've asked my children or my grandchildren. I have grandchildren. That's how old I am. So I say, take number 5. They say, what about number 5? What is number 5? They go like that. And I say, look at the way the Egyptians did it. Or look Chinese. Look at the beauty of Chinese pictograms or Japanese pictograms. What can you imagine looking at 5? Well, you might find a head, or you might find a head in the 8, or you might. And I've said, yeah, you're beginning to do math. But he says, that's not math. I said, that's math. That's math. Math is imagination. It's so if you forget about the math, well, then the whole world opens to you. I mean, you can use math for fantastic things.
That is beautiful. And I was saying, we were discussing a little bit in the chat. Denis, one thing I've enjoyed about getting to know you is how multidimensional you are. You clearly grew up. Yeah, you grew up embracing
the outer space.
No, you grew up you were inclusive of others. You were open to many mindsets. You've remained a very open man with an open
but that's not on
mindsets.
purpose. It's just that I just can't close a door.
Exactly. That's
I'm not
so
open.
great.
It's just I don't know how to close a door. It just kills me to close a door.
There you go. Yeah. Okay. By the way, guys, I always try to take questions in order that best serve the family. If I fail at that, please forgive me. But I do think we're ready for Ngozi. Ngozi, I'm sure Denis is going to love your question.
Hi, it's just been very interesting listening to you, Denis. It's not so much as a question as the comment. And I want you to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what I've got from this is to look at things like AI as tools and the math that involved in it as a tool, and not to look at it as the end, because sometimes I find when the math of AI is projected, it actually takes away, it detracts it for me, and it does drive people away from and getting into it, because there's a lot of projection of the math of it instead of the power of what it can do and letting the imagination spark from what actually you can do with it. And that's one thing I'm getting from what you're saying. And this is one thing I sort of tend to apply in what I do, because I always tend to look at what issue are we trying to solve, instead of looking at the technology or the technique or the program or whatever it is that will be used to solve the problem. Because if I start from the problem and the best solution for it, then we can then come to think about the how of it. And for me, that's one thing. I don't know, maybe I'm also thinking like you, I'm being weirdly abnormal, but that is what I'm picking from what you're saying. And thank you for the session.
Yeah, that brings another dimension to the conversation. Is let's say math is a face. Like I'm looking at all your faces, and you're looking at my face and other faces. And let's say math is looking at the face, but where's the soul? So math is the face, but you have to go beyond the math, like Ngozi is saying, if you want to see the soul. So generally, when I meet people, I don't care what they look like, and I don't even care what they're saying. I'm trying to figure out what they are inside. That's I'm always trying to figure that out. Why I'm not, because sometimes even when you're saying something, you mean something else. Like suppose you're with your wife or your friend, or you live with someone, whatever you are, and the person says, hey, I don't like the food tonight. Okay, now a person says that, any human will know that something's wrong, because if you take it literally at first level, like a face where you say, oh, there's nothing wrong with the food, but you're saying, why did this person say that? Well, something's wrong. And I said, you're going to say, is something wrong, or can we do? You have to go beyond. And math is just the first step. So in these conversations, humans try to read expressions, because 20,000 years ago, if we missed an expression on someone's face, we'd be dead maybe the minute after. Oh, hello, I like you. Come here closer to me. So, if we couldn't read faces 20,000 years ago, we'd be dead. So we have to, and artificial intelligence and math are just two words. Imagine everything people, in fact, you have the answer. You just say artificial intelligence to someone, and they're going to imagine, I don't know, you're going to have science fiction. You're going to beat every Spielberg movie you want. It's just these are just two words, but what's behind it? So like what Ngozi is saying, what's the problem I have to solve? I don't care about art. Just take the words away and solve the problem. It's like looking at the soul. If you look at the soul, and that's why I say at the beginning of the conversation, just look around you. Just learn how to look deeper into something beyond the forms, beyond the shapes, beyond the numbers. Dream. I would say dream. Dream is a great word. Take some numbers and look at them and dream about them. Like, what was the first time you saw the number 3 or 4? Do you remember when you were at school? Did someone learn the number? Related to emotion, to go back to what Hugo was saying. So yeah, Ngozi, that's another dimension there.
Dennis, I've been asking the family permission to ask my own question. I normally don't ask them because everyone else asks what I'm thinking, but they're teasing me. Chris is allowing me to do this, but it's a bit of a trick. I hope it's no secret how much I respect Geith's mind. And Geith is very, very giving, and he has a big question. And so really my question is, Geith, what is your question to Denis? I think we have time for it. And it's okay if it goes for a long time.
In fact, it's multiple questions, and it's changed during the session, let's say. Denis, let's start from the math itself. I think that the great about math is it's until now, it's the only way that we are able to deal with abstract facts instead of having personal and environmental bias. So it's easy to encode everything in math, go and do your extraction, and then when you just decode it, you will find the new facts. And this is what you mean by the dream. This is how I understand it. So, and this is why I like math. In this way, I can find that it's the only language that we can speak. If we follow the rules, it will give us the correct answer without any soul behind it, because I cannot understand. No, I can understand. I have my personal opinion about the soul, but I cannot define what is the soul exactly. Okay, this is the first idea about the math. The second idea, it's about the law. I think the law, it's only way to keep the game running, just not to make it game over, because it's, I will give one example. There is that smart kid who was going each time to the grocery, and the grocery man, he just asked him, do you want $1 or one fils, which is a part of of dirham in UAE. And the kids, each time he asked him, okay, I want the 1 fils. I don't want the $1. So one time this grocery man asked the person, okay, see this kid, it's very stupid. He always choose the lowest part. He didn't ask for the dollar. He always choose to get 1 fils. So one day he asked him, why you are always choose the fils? He told him, once I choose the dollar, the game is over. And this is what's the law exactly. And so I was surprised that my kids doing the same for me. They ask me to play with them, but they always want to lose because they want to continue. If they win, I will tell them, okay, you finish, you are okay, we are great now. So this is the law. This is my idea about the law, because it's protecting the game. It's protecting even the selfish game that we are playing. This is my thought. And I think it's, I want to speak about them, but I thought better, other questions are better. So.
Yeah, but let's go back to the thoughts about math. I've been spending the past weeks, because I spend most of my time doing research on all these things. So I was very puzzled, because I live in a city where there's a cathedral, churches and all that. And one of these churches was like 12th century. And I was saying, how could they build that? because they didn't have calculus. They didn't have calculus. So how did they do it? So since I'm lucky, I'm in the city. So I did some research, and I've been on it for weeks, and I've been reproducing the way they did. They didn't have math. They didn't have math because they were using Roman numerals. They were using in Europe, we were using Roman numerals up to maybe, well, it overlapped, but at least until around 1300, 1400. So we're talking about the cathedral you see in Paris, Notre Dame, this huge, beautiful cathedral that was made with no math. They didn't even know how to use the zero. They didn't have the zero. They were using Roman numerals. So I'm saying, I'm sitting here on my laptop selling my books, and these guys build that cathedral with nothing. That's not possible. So I went and got a compass with a string. Then I just got, a ruler. Okay. And then I found a rope with knots. They didn't use math. They didn't have 10. They didn't know how to multiply. They didn't have the zero. They didn't know that if you put 2 zeros, that's 100. They didn't know how to count. They just had these Roman numerals, and they could do, and what they did is geometry, but basic geometry. So going back to what Hugo was saying, of course, math is a word, but you have algebra and you have geometry. And geometry is just intuition forms where you just draw your circle. They didn't even know basic trigon. They didn't know all the sine and cosines and all that stuff. They had this golden number that they would just draw it this way. You take a right angle, then you do it this way, that way. I reproduced a lot of this stuff with just a compass, a ruler, a pencil, and a little rope to build things. And they built the world. The Romans conquered the world that way. Everything we admire in Rome and Greece was done that way with a compass, a ruler. I mean, and it puzzled me. So I spent days and days and days reproducing, working on it. And it just goes back to what Hugo was saying, and even what you're saying. That's all we know how to do. But how evolved are we? I mean, I don't know if we're that evolved. I think when I look at the power of what they did, we don't even do it anymore. We just build these buildings like that. They're not even nice buildings. I mean, so it puzzles me. It even does more than puzzles me. It troubles me, because they had no notion of anything we're talking about. Before going in artificial, imagine we're in the 12th century. Okay, we're building a mosque. We're building a mosque somewhere. Well, not a mosque in Middle East, because they knew the zero. So coming back to here, so I go to Notre Dame in Paris, and I'm talking to a guy, and say, you know what? I have this time machine. I come from 2021. He says, wow. And I know calculus, I know integrals. And he said, I don't understand what you're talking about. I know that stuff. Well, can you build this cathedral? Because I'm about finished. Well, I can cook noodles. If you give me some water, I can put noodles in them. I can write a program. He says, what do you need a program for? Look what I built. It'll be here in 1,000 years. Will your program be there in 1,000 years? I doubt it. I doubt anything you do will be there in 1,000 years. But that Notre Dame has been here for 900 years. And these guys built with a compass, a ruler, a rope with knots. I mean, it troubles me. Really, it really troubles me.
Okay, I don't want to. By the way, I'm able, Denis, I'm able to discuss with you until morning, and I will enjoy that. But I don't want to use the time for that for other people.
One day we'll be able to do this after COVID.
It's only one point here. I think we use the math just to find the economical, and don't ask me to define what is economical way to do the things. Now, if we don't have the knowledge, we will go for the safe solution. This is why the big buildings happen. Now, for example, why we are not building pyramids anymore?
Yeah,
because
why?
we know more economical way to go
Why
that
don't we
high.
why don't we build a nice pyramid? Why do we have to build these
No,
buildings
it's nice.
where you put
It's nice, but
a
it's a
lot of
huge
people in
more
them?
than
You put a lot of people that get
yes. I think it's nice, but it's a huge more than expected or a huge more
Are
than
there
needed.
any English people here? Do you know John Ruskin? Yeah, so Jonathan, you know John Ruskin and the Pre-Raphaelites? Now you don't? Well, I'll tell you, I studied John Ruskin and he was 19th century and he's saying, was the Renaissance something really good? Why didn't we stay to pre-Raphaelite stuff? Why do we need all that? What are we doing here? Why do we need all that? Do I need Twitter to live? I mean, really? I don't know. I'm troubled. I'm troubled by this guy that built Notre Dame.
I'm not Twitter user, so I don't need.
I'm troubled. So I'm using all this intelligence for Facebook to make Zuckerberg richer, or Jeff Bezos, the richest man in history, or Elon Musk, who's building toy cars, I had an electric car when I was a child. So he's building all these electric cars and he's the richest man in the world. It troubles me, really. It really troubles me.
I want to identify something maybe y'all are saying. I just like to define it. What is the magic of Denis Rothman? He's always constructively critically questioning things, not just critically questioning, but constructively critically questioning. I don't care if the whole world thinks that's good. I'm gonna be constructively critically questioning it. And by the way, the Kaggle group's doing a great job of this in the spirit of, yes, we can't just make assumptions of what we think which feature is most important. We have to let the data and the analysis tell us this, but we can't get what I hear Denis say. I'm saying this at such a low level compared to the way he and Geith are talking. But really, in our practical day-to-day, don't get fixated on current approaches, current tools, current thinking, current anything. The only reason we've made progress as a human race is because someone said, and I'm sorry, YouTube, this is bullshit. By the way, Abelard would not have traveled to learn from the Muslims from England if he didn't think everything that's going around me right now is bullshit. We are just being stupid.
Yeah, we'd still be calculating with Roman numerals if people hadn't gone down there.
Yeah, and he was fed up. He was trying to learn, so he journeyed to France, to Italy, to Greece, all the way to Baghdad in his studies, and he brought it all back to England. I want you guys to appreciate, if Abelard hadn't done that, we wouldn't be having this talk at this level right now. But we could talk about many such people. And now Denis is a modern day manifestation of those level of intellects. So we can catalog his best practices and start to adopt them ourselves, to say, I can be like Denis Rothman, maybe not at his level.
You translate it. This is the way I talk to CEOs.
Exactly. And
I go to a CEO and I said, why do you want artificial intelligence? Or why you want even software? And he said, and I speak about, I live, and you build trust. Because maybe in a lot of cases, I said, you don't need anything for the moment. What you just need is to stop reading the newspaper and doing and I'll come back in a year when you have the right data. I'm in no hurry. I had customers for like 20 years, 25 years. I mean, corporations where the CEO would almost be a friend for 30 years. Now that's a feat in our generation, and the guy just said, just come along and give me some ideas. And and in the end, a good customer will say, is this a good idea, bad idea? And you have to say no to, like children, most of the time. You can't let a customer do that. You say, no, you're not doing this. No, you're not doing that. You can do that. So I just speak like that to anybody. especially in sales. Because I tell people you want to be really sure of what you're doing, you know.
Sorry, Tom. So Tom and Denis, sorry. I just want to add one thing. When I spoke about the law, because the example that you mentioned in your book, Denis, it was hitting me that sometimes you need this information to build or to find better words. So if the data is biased, you have to configure why it's biased. So that's why if sometimes the law is preventing us from positive things. So that's why the law is only to keep the game going. This is my idea.
Yeah, of course.
The second point, it's what Magdi said. Are we on the wrong way? This is her question on the chat. For sure, the question is for you, Denis. I think even if we are in the wrong way, it will be madness to flip the way alone. I think we have to be more together again.
Well,
okay, Denis.
There's this, since Tom knows by now that I always put philosophy before anything. There's this French philosopher called René Descartes, okay, Cartesian. Well, your Cartesian plan comes from him, you know, the Cartesian XY.
Oh, Denis, you're saying his name wrong. It's Descartes. No, I'm teasing you. I'm teasing you.
Descartes. Okay. But Greg and I will say Descartes. So if you read his discourse on method, which is one of my reference books, he does exactly what I do with CEOs. He says, don't suppose that anything is true until you take it completely apart in pieces and you try to destroy it, try to hammer it. So when I'm with a CEO trying to sell CI, I say, no, AI, I say, no, not that. I try to destroy the whole project. And if something's left, well, then it's true. It's like when you just shaking the tree to see. So you really have to hit hard on things to get the truth. You have to doubt everything. And if something remains, it's very, very strong and powerful, because the CEO says, wow, we have found the thing that we need to do. And it might be nothing that was planned early in the meeting, and it might not even involve AI, but it could evolve into AI in maybe 6 months or 1 year. Going back to Gayeth, we both have something in common, is Mediterranean patience in relationships. I'm in no hurry. I'm very Asian in this respect. I can spend 5 years with a customer to get him from A to B. I'm in absolutely no hurry to sell him anything. I just want him to get him to the right place. So what Tom says by constructive means that first I destroy all the noise. That's what I'm doing. I'm just destroying the noise. Once the noise is gone, what is left is a beautiful little fruit for your customer, for yourself, for everyone. That's the translation of what you were talking about.
Oh, that's powerful. Thank you. Greg. Oh, sorry. Gregoire Cuquillo.
In French or English, my question?
Whatever you want.
We'll leave it up to you. It was beautiful hearing it in French, so it's up to you two.
Et ma question pour toi, Denis, c'est comment gagner confiance si je suis un psychologue, si je suis un cuisinier, un éducateur, et j'aimerais bien avoir confiance que je peux avoir un impact sur l'intelligence artificielle. C'est quoi mon point d'entrée? Comment réussir cette bulle? Alors, le point d'entrée, souvent, il faut être bon en mathématiques, il faut être bon en calculus et tout ça. Mais comment avoir confiance que moi aussi, comme éducateur, je peux avoir un impact positif sur l'intelligence artificielle? Comment invitons-nous tous ces professionnels, comme on dit, il faut du tout pour faire un monde, et inviter et les professionnels techniques et les professionnels non techniques dans ce monde qu'on appelle intelligence artificielle.
So I'll sum it up, because that's, you know, I'll sum it up and you tell me if I summed it up correctly. Suppose I'm somebody that has nothing to do with the theoretical world. Like I'm a cook, I'm a server in a restaurant, I'm just an educator, I'm someone that doesn't know anything about what we're talking about here in math and all that stuff. How do I relate to artificial intelligence, and how can I get involved, and how can I break through this wall of Berlin, like to get into that world? Now, I have to admit, my dear Greg, that's one of the easiest questions for me. Because that's how I started my career. I'll tell you how, and if you go back to the first video I made on Monday, I'll tell you my first big contract was done like that. I went into a big apparel company, a very famous brand, and I was supposed to optimize fabric. And I had all these engineers talking to me, and I was really getting bored. I was saying, you know, you're talking about manufacturing. You look like you never manufactured anything, you know. So it's going to what you're saying. There is knowledge in these. There's knowledge in a worker working in the factory. And in this specific case, there was this woman who was sewing clothing, and I was walking in the factory, and I wanted to understand the process before putting it into software. So I'm the kind of guy that will spend 24 hours in the factory in 3 shifts, sitting around trying the machines with the people. So I do what you're saying right here. And I said, how is my software going to relate to this person once it's running? How can it even tell this person what to do if I don't understand? And then I was saying, how am I going to get my software to work without someone like that? So that's the easiest question. I generally go get people like that as users. So I was working with this lady, and believe me, she was impressive. I mean, she was this French lady that was liked to eat, and she was really the worker. And I went to the top management, and they said, have you chosen a user among our engineers? I said, no, I don't want an engineer. I want my project to succeed, please. Who do you want? And I remember her name, Eveline. I remember that's nearly 40 years ago. I remember Eveline. He says, who's Eveline? I said, she's a worker, you know, down there in shift number 2. Are you kidding me? She never went to school. So I said, yeah, but she knows how the factory works. So it's easier for me to teach her how to click on a mouse and to do stuff in the software than to teach an engineer how the factory's running. And the guy said, are you sure? I said, well, that's my condition, or I'm walking out of the factory. I'm going away. He says, where are you going? I'm going home. I want my project to succeed. And I don't even care about anything. I don't even care about your money. Want your check back? I can write your check back right now. I'm a kind of special person in project management. So like I said, if you don't believe me, here's your check. I can give it back to you. I can go home. I can have a nice evening. I don't have to worry about your engineers effing up the whole project. That's how I talk to people. I said, okay, let's take Eveline, but she doesn't know how to use a computer. And you know who taught the computer how to use a computer? My brother-in-law, who was 20 and he didn't know how to use a computer, but he was studying to be a doctor. So I said, you can learn how to click, you can learn faster than her, and then you can teach her. So in the morning, I would show him like 15 minutes what to do, and then he'd go train her. And she was there, just go ahead, I'll be there. So she said, and she stayed there for 10 years doing that until, you know, she moved on to another job. So where all these people come in, they come in as user experience, as users that you have to include in the project. I've systematically include people like that in every single project, because that's the only way you get, that's one of my secret weapons. Like I've been to Morocco in factories. I would get up at 4 in the morning. I'd go work with the workers 4, 5, 6 in the morning, understand the whole factory, and then bring them one of the best ones in as a user. That's where they come in with their knowledge. You take the cook. Well, he knows how to cook. Do I know how to cook? I don't know how to cook. How am I going to write a program about cooking? How am I going to do AI in cooking? I don't know how to cook. Well, I can cook maybe an egg if it doesn't blow up, you know, if I don't forget to take it out or somewhere. So these people have tremendous potential. And we just have to go away from these vertical organizations and get to, horizontal, like Tom says, working together. But I've done it all my life. That's why the success rate of artificial intelligence may be 20%. Mine was 80% at least. I've maybe failed out of 1,000 projects, maybe 10.
Very great context. Thank you.
That's my secret weapon you have there.
Sounds good. And it sounds like it's an effort that has to happen inside of AI itself. So if I say, oh, you have to be a mathematician, you have to be good at math if you want to be on the technical side. But if you want to create a good product, you have to be conscious about inviting others to add more dimensions beyond math into your product to have a good impact.
Of course. Imagine a society with only mathematicians, no doctors, no cooks, no taxi drivers, just mathematicians. We'd all be dead. And it's the same for a project. And there's a company in France, which is, you're going to be surprised by the name because I'm going to give it to you, that produces the most French cars, the biggest proportion. You always have to outsource, but the biggest proportion of a French car in France is made by people that do what I do, Toyota. The Japanese company built a factory in France, made it French, built in France, and got the engineers down in, people keep changing jobs all the time. I've seen that in aerospace too, where the guy has to work as a worker, then back as an engineer. That's the best way to do it.
Thank you.
All right, Ngozi.
So should I go in French or Igbo now?
Oh, please.
In Igbo.
Wait.
I don't speak Hebrew.
Ugochukwu will interpret.
My mother was Catholic, my father was Jewish, and my parents said, be whatever you want because we don't care.
Ugo will interpret if I speak in Igbo.
You can speak in Hebrew, but I don't understand it. The Italian part of my mother took over.
All right. Okay. So I thought Greg meant to ask if a non-mathematician wanted to be involved in AI as not involving someone who is not in your project, but becoming proficient in AI products. I thought that was a great question. And if it's not, that's what I'm asking. So non-mathematician, you are whatever whatever it is you are, but you're interested in AI. Yeah. So how do people do that?
Well, that's an easy one too, because
I
always worked in small teams, and I always hired at least one or two people that knew absolutely nothing about artificial intelligence and nothing about software. And you know what their job was? Write the documentation. So that means that all of us had to be able to explain, they had to be understand, and then they could test the product and you get the best answers. There's always a project is like society. You need all kinds of people. You need psychologists. You need people that test. If you're doing cooking, you need the cook. If you're doing taxis, you need the taxi driver. It's a society in itself. You can't. This is very personal conversation. I hate to work in teams where you just have engineers that say, I know what the user thinks. I say, you know what the user thinks? Well, you're completely off track. You have no idea what the user thinks. You have to get a panel of maybe a lot of users. So I would put like free software on the net, and then we'd phone all of these people one by one and ask them what they thought. You can go nowhere with people that know about artificial intelligence, because they're the last ones that will write a user interface. I mean, this is not magic. You need people that know nothing about it, math and all that, and you need everyone in a team. In fact, I never had a sales team, but I always had a person to answer the phone if someone asked a question, and I always hired someone that knew nothing about software or artificial intelligence, and I trained them from scratch. And I said, you don't need to understand what we do. You just need to understand what the person's asking and how the software works. You're a user. Like you take a telephone. Can you repair a telephone? You can't repair a telephone, but you can tell me that you like that smartphone or not because it doesn't work well, or you need all kinds of people. Who cares about just, you go nowhere with a developer. A developer is just going to be there with his potato chips and the Coke and the pizza. You're not going to go pretty far, because I'm a developer myself, so I know what I'm like. So when you're immersed in code like that 24 hours, you're like you're like psychotic. In fact, you're like in some kind of flow where no one can even talk to you. So you need people around you. I always had people. In fact, I can even tell you another secret. I never managed my company. My wife did, because she said, you don't even know how to manage anything. You can't even manage a fork, a knife, a dish. You don't know anything. So my wife managed the company, and I just, I'd be the geek there. And then sometimes they'd pull me out and have me talk to someone. And I talk to people like I talk to you. I don't have social varnish. So, this is the CEO of that company's phoning you. Yeah, okay. So I just talk to, like I'm talking to you, and hang up. He likes it. He likes it. He doesn't like it. I don't care. I just go back to. So you need all kinds of people. You need people that care, people that don't care. You can't have geeks. We're not living in a society of geeks. We're the dumbest race on the human planet. Geek. I mean, it's painful. I've been trying to cure myself of being a geek for the past 40 years. It's a disease.
Denis, there's some interesting chat going on, kind of jokingly reinforcing what you're saying. It dawned on me, I oftentimes will stop in the middle of a talk I'm giving and say, forgive me, English is constraining what I want to say right now. And it's a spirit of, hey, math is a language, so it can constrain your thinking. Code can constrain your thinking. Prepare for something sacrilegious. Python can constrain your thinking. So just some amens, and Vivek, Python one actually hurts, true. But it's the spirit of when every system we've used to communicate with one another is a convention so we can share our thinking. But we have to be careful to not let the rules of those conventions limit our constructs of invention, of innovation, of solution finding. I find this to be one of the bigger things to remember. Don't be constrained by the language you speak, the code you use, the math you know. Dream.
That's right. Do not be constrained. Now that's, Greg, that's Etienne de Boissy. Etienne de Boissy, that's 16th century. And he wrote of he described us as self-slaves. We're the ones, l'asservissement volontaire. We're the ones that accept the rules. We don't have to accept the rules. I mean, I come from a family where nobody lived in the country where he was born in 4 generations. I was born in Berlin. My children are the first generation in 4 generations to live in the country where they was born. If you don't like a place, go somewhere else. If you don't like something, do something else. If you don't like the way it is, just change it. You don't have to, as long as you don't kill people, don't kill people, okay? Now, let's say, do not kill people, do not steal from them, basics, some of the commandments, but beyond that, do what you want. Why would you be constrained? In fact, I'd rather be a cook than work as an engineer for most of the corporations I see, if I knew how to cook.
Understood on that one.
I could wash the dishes, maybe. I could wash the dishes.
I think, too, some of the most amazing things.
Now, Rabbit made a comment.
Oh.
Yeah, no, Rabbit, I admire you. What is it, 1 a.m. or something?
No, it's late in the night.
Yeah, I don't know where, Rabbit, you're online 24 hours a day. Every time I go on LinkedIn, I see. Every time I go on YouTube, boom, I see a video. It looks like, are you real?
No, no.
He's AI.
And you know what I told you in a conversation about the 16th century.
I know, right?
India,
That's why I made that comment.
China were the first world powers in that century.
Yep.
And that's why there's no surprise that it's happening again. It's just the Western world that stopped them for 500 years. And now that, we're not choking you're just coming back to where you were. Remember, the zero started in India, went over to Gayeth, and Gayeth brought it over to Europe.
That's exactly right. I think one of the bigger...
I think the original version here. So
yeah, the Persian.
Yes.
Oh, be careful. Be careful how you say that one, right? Located in modern day Persia, right? We learned that the hard way. No, that another important point, guys. Still, careful consideration through analysis, through training. It doesn't mean that these things that can constrain us should. They can actually get us to focus our energy. Imagine if the water said, I don't like being constrained by this hose, but the human says, I'm sorry, I need to direct you to this specific spot. And the nice thing about physics and math and calculus and coding, we shouldn't use them as constraints, but as guides to get us where we want. But also, I want to encourage you all, there will be times where you dream up an idea or solution and people will poo-poo it. And they are wrong. They are wrong. There have been times where I stood up to someone saying that and my system worked great. There have been times where I really respected the individual poo-pooing my idea, and I painfully learned 25 years later, oh, that was a big deal. I should have pursued that. Shame on me for listening to that person I respected poo-poo my idea. So just be cautious with that. As you learn to lift these constraints, be aware of other constraints that exist in our world.
Your part there can be fun. If you going back to Rabbit, if you have like Indian philosophy, if we go back to older Indian philosophy, in Indian philosophy, which you don't look, or in Japanese philosophy, you don't look at the result. You just do something, and you're not supposed to think of greed or a bill, or you're supposed to do what's in you, right? And I have a lot of fun when people poo on my ideas, because I always test stuff before I go somewhere. And I know that this corporation will earn a lot of money if they do it that way. And then when a person says that, I just love it, because I love these. And I say, you know what? You don't like my idea? Well, I hope you're right, because you said that in the whole meeting in front of your CEO, because if you're not right and I'm right, that makes you wrong in front of everyone. So I like these challenges. I think it's fun. I think people can be even dumber than me. So if he's dumb enough in a big meeting to say that my idea is bad after 100 projects, I say that's cool. I worked for Air France, for Disney, for Airbus, and you're saying that what I'm saying is wrong. Wow, you are Einstein. But I hope you are, because you said it in front of everyone. So if I come back and it works, where does that put you? But I'll be nice. You just owe me a bar of chocolate, and I generally bet a bar of chocolate, and I ask for it. Believe me, I ask for it and I eat it. I go back and he said, you said that, and you give me my bar of chocolate. I don't care about your check. I want my bar of chocolate, and I eat it. I might even eat it in front of him, and if I'm nice enough, I'll share it with them. So it can be fun. People challenging you. In fact, you might know this. Create what we call neurogenesis. It generates more synapses in your brain. If someone's always saying yes, 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 you don't make an effort. So you can say to the person, you know what, you're helping me. because by you're helping me because I'm going to have to work harder. I'm going to develop my brain while yours remains so small. You don't have to be nice all the time. You can have fun.
Dennis, maybe we should amend that statement that says nothing in this world happens without a sale. I think we should amend it to nothing truly good in this world happens without chocolate involved.
Right. That's one of my key things. And I remember customers, I would drive to the customer site and I'd find a chocolate bar on the keyboard of the company and they say, the chocolate bar is there. Yeah, it's cool. Nothing can be done. And in fact, it's a truth. There is no good philosopher or mathematician that doesn't like a good meal with friends and family. I mean, with any kind of drink. I'm not involving alcohol, but I'm saying there's no such thing as a good mathematician or good philosopher that doesn't enjoy a nice meal with his friends and family. It's just the guy's a neurotic if he doesn't do that. You can be a fantastic neurotic.
And hence, let me do a Denis Rothman translation. All he said was, hey guys, live, follow, more together. That's what he's saying. Thank you.
One of the key takeaways for me in all of this is you're really bounded by the limits of your imagination, and your approach should always be starting with empathy.
Yes, so, empathy is the key word.
Thank you for that, Denis.
Yeah, empathy is the only word. I would say love, but I don't like to say love in professional conversation. But in fact, what I think is love, because I see love as the only thing that makes us human. And I see love as something extremely vast beyond empathy. It means that I can love a plant, I can love trees, I can merge with everything. And once you merge with everything, it'll talk to you. You'll get answers to all your questions. So I would say if we put it a bit further, I remember this podcast, in the end, the person says, what's the most important takeaway for you in your career? I say love. So you can say empathy, love, what else? I mean, what else? And if you have that in you while you're working, wow, there is no limit. That's the beginning of your dream and imagination, is empathy, of course. No empathy, no human being.
I think our group, our family, Denis, has fallen into being unpurposefully unprofessional. I think trying to be professional, we realized, is just getting in the way of us growing more together. So I don't think we've ever voiced that, but we're not really here to worry about being professional. We're really here to help each other grow more.
Well, that's Asian thinking. If you
Excellent.
go back to deep Asian philosophies, you're not supposed to think about being professional. You're supposed to do the right thing. This is written here, Ravit, in the Bhagavad Gita. Rig Vega, we talked about that before. If you go back to the deep thoughts, that's it. You have to do what's right with empathy, truth and empathy. It's back to what I said. You do truth and empathy, you're okay in anything. I'd even like to finish on this one. I remember when Michael Jackson passed away, and there was this pastor, and he was smaller than me, so that's really small. And so he was standing there, and he was preaching for Michael Jackson's, and he was saying, be a Mozart in whatever you do. I don't care if you're sweeping the streets. If you sweep the streets like Mozart. If you do anything, you do it like Mozart. And then at one point, everything will break loose in you. It's a restraint. It's the restraint. You have to let yourself go and be Mozart in anything you do with empathy.
I heard some Michael Faraday in there too. I love it, Denis. That's beautiful.
Well, it came from the pastor from Michael Jackson, not.
Nice. Well, guys, I know it might be a little chaotic, but why don't you all, I know you think this has been an ultra amazing session. So just all come off mic and say what you want real quick to Denis. It'll get a little chaotic, but so what? Do it.
Thank you, Denis.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was
C'est
really
génial.
amazing.
Merci, j'apprécie beaucoup.
Session, Denis.
Come back
C'était
again.
parfait.
Yes.
Very much.
Amazing session. That can I say something?
Really amazing.
Right, Dennis,
Bien
I
clair, man.
actually thought I was abnormal. I've had a couple of discussions